Hello friends, in that last video what we did was we made it so this Mario can move. And that's really nice, but I don't really like the way, I don't like the response, and I don't like that he just stops. Better! We're gonna make it so he does what Mario does in the actual game, which is kind of skid along. And it's a really nice improvement. Want to show it to you next. And the other thing I want to do is I want to make sure that he doesn't go off the screen. So we'll do both those things now. And I'm going to go back to the code. And we'll just take a look at our Mario. So we've got this move that is changing the X value by multiplying speed times a direction. And the direction changes if we're moving. If we're moving left, we're going to make that direction be a -1. If we're going right, it's going to be a +1. We can keep all that, but what we need to do is introduce a concept of acceleration. So, and I happen to know we're going to need an acceleration also on the y-axis. So what I'm going to do is just refactor this just a little bit. And instead of this speed, what we're going to do is have I'm going to have an acceleration x. And I'm going to set it to 10. And I'm also just going to go ahead and set an acceleration y, which we'll use later. And so acceleration is how much it is changing, and velocity is actually going to be our new speed. And we'll initialize it y. And these will help us when it comes time to jump. Okay, so for now, I think that's what we need. We're probably also going to want to have that decomposition value or that decay, but we'll add that in a sec. So what we'll have is when we move now, what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of changing the x, we're going to change the velocity. So now when we are moving, we're going to be increasing the velocity of x. And then in our, have it yet. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call an update function. And in the update function, which we'll call from the main loop, we'll do some stuff. We'll say this dot x plus equals this dot direction times this dot velocity x. So that's a lot like what we had before. We're just calling it in this update function, and you can see we've got this extra sort of step. Now there's going to be even one more step, which is going to be to create some drag. And so drag we're going to set to, I think, let me see what I had before. It's something you generally need to just kind of play with. I think I started out higher and made it lower. And on the y-axis, we're going to call that gravity. So we're going to use both of these, right? We'll use the drag for our x, and we'll use the gravity for our y. Now, how do we utilize this this drag to slow us down? Is we'll subtract the drag from our velocity in our loop. So what we're gonna, and I think I'm gonna write that as a separate function, and it's gonna be called this dot going to, remember I mentioned I wanted to be able to keep this on the screen. So we'll have a method called so now when we call this update function, we're going to change the x value. We're going to call towards rest and keep on screen. Well, let's just see what we've got now. If we look at our code, what do I do with that? Here we go. So now nothing's happening. Why is that not changing my x? Oh, I know why. So I'm doing the animation, but I'm not calling update. Right? I got to call Hero Mario update. So we'll go back to our sketch. And we see I'm calling Hero Mario.render. Now we're updating Mario. And you know what? We can also have an update method on our coin. And in this update method, what we're going to do is we've got this array of images, which is nice because that means we can create a coin animation, but I totally forgot to implement that animation. So what I need to do is in this update, I'm going to say something like if so say if image counter is less than the total number of images, then we're gonna, and otherwise we'll so that way we can call this update function, and you know we could also just use our modulo here, but you know just for variety, I think it's I like to show all the possibilities, right? So I'm just gonna call update now on my coins also. So when we are in our draw loop, we'll say coin.render. So now we can call coin.update and coin.render, just as we're calling. You know, I'm gonna put update before the render. You know, it doesn't really matter, but let's see, where's my Mario? There he is. Now we're working. But you can see it's like super, that velocity's big because the velocity's never going down. The velocity just keeps getting bigger. I needed to bring the velocity down. You can see my coins are also flashing. And what might be nice is actually to have the rate of those be a little bit different. Let's do that actually. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna say this dot image counter plus equals this dot speed. We'll just say this dot speed, and then for each one of these coins, we'll say this dot speed equals math dot random. Now, what we need to do is say this dot image counter. We'll say math dot floor of this value. So we'll always get an integer, and that's probably a little crazy, right? But it's fine. We'll keep it like that for now. You know what I might do is make this be a little closer. I'll say math.random. Let's see. We're gonna get we'll write a function in the next video to get a range that's a little tighter. But for now, we'll just keep it like that because I want to keep on with this what we were working on with the speed. So what we need to do is here with our Mario is we need this towards rest here. And the towards rest is how we're going to decrease our velocity. So we're going to say something like if the velocity of x has been increased above 0, right? If he's moving basically. Then what we want to do is we want to say this dot velocity x minus equals this dot drag. So now each time this update function gets called, we're going to decrease the velocity by a chunk, by a pretty good chunk. So if this dot velocity dot x, the x velocity is greater than 0, it's going to always be coming down. If the x, and let's just see what that does. So that should, nice, right? So that's better. I can see another thing I want to do, which is change that image back to the standing image. So if this dot velocity x is 0, if it's gone all the way down to 0, then I'm going to say let's set that image counter back to that initial one. And I can see an even further improvement too that I could do here, which would, on this side of the screen, I want them to point that way, and this side point that way. So we'll say if, so we can have this nested if statement. We'll say if this dot x is greater than 500, right? Or yeah, eventually I think we'll have a canvas width value. But let's just say if it's greater than 500, I think we want this one we have. Else, let's set it to the one that points the other way. So now, if we are there, he's pointing that way, and if we're there, he's pointing that way. Just a small thing, but I sort of like it, especially because we're not going to allow this Mario to go off the edge of the screen. Now, obviously, in the Mario Brothers, in the real one, there's a whole world out there, but that just seems a little too complicated for this intro video to me. But I'm happy to explore that with you if that's of interest to you, and just holler at me and let me know. All right, so we've got this towards rest we need to keep on screen, and keep on screen is basically pretty straightforward. We're just going to say if this dot x is less than 0, this dot x equals 0, this dot velocity x equals 0, and we're good. And we'll say if this dot x is greater than, I'm just going to keep him off the edge of that screen, so I'm going to say this dot x equals 900. I think that'll be about right. We can fine tune that. And again, the velocity of x is 0, so let's just see. And now he can't go over there. And you can see, like, I could probably fine tune on the left and the right a little bit. Right? So there's a couple of cool things. And we've got some blinking coins. Let's do this. Let's do math.random times. Oh, that's too slow. No, that's pretty much just as random. All right, we'll work on that in the next video. Maybe not the next video, but soon. In the next video, actually, what I want to tackle is jumping. So we're going to add jumping to this Mario. I want to be able to hit this up arrow